Hello, everyone. I'm Assemblyman Angelo Santa Barbara, and welcome to my very first podcast. This series is going to be called My Autism Action Update. We've had so many recent developments surrounding the autism issue and related conditions in the State Assembly. There's a number of bills that I want to talk about, a number of big wins for my Autism Action Plan. We'll talk a little bit about that I created in the State Assembly when I was first elected. And we have seen that plan evolve and grow, and new bills added to it, new funding, and a number of other things that are really all coming together to make a difference for the thousands of families in New York State that are affected by autism. And although you're going to hear autism a lot, we're sort of coined some of these bills as autism bills. They're much more than that. They are meant to serve all those with disabilities in our community with related conditions to autism, developmental disabilities. We're going to be talking about a number of issues that affect people across the state, but hopefully we're inspiring people across the country and possibly in other countries across the world with some of the actions we're taking here in New York State. In the Assembly, I serve as chair of the Subcommittee on Autism Spectrum Disorders, and I've been able to be very active in that role to make some of these bills a reality. So as I said, there's a lot to get to. So this will be a series. We're not going to get to all of it in this first inaugural episode of my podcast. But we'll be today. We're filming this and recording this here at the OSM Studios at Proctor's in downtown Schenectady. But we'll be moving around. We'll be doing some of this up at the Capitol. We may even be in the Assembly Chamber at times. So there's a lot more to come. And that's sort of a little introduction on what we're going to be talking about, what this series will be about. So one of the first things I wanted to mention, one of the most recent bills that passed to start off this podcast, something that's immediately available right now, something I've been working on since the first year I was in office. It's an autism ID program, and that goes along with a second bill that's first responders for law enforcement and EMS and a number of other first responders that are going to receive this training. So I want to talk about the Autism Disability ID card. It's something brand new, actually was just launched in recent weeks. It's had tremendous success, more than 2,000 cards issued in the first 3 days. And I just checked not too long ago here, a few days ago actually, and there was more than 3,000 in cards that have been requested. So this is what the card looks like here, and we'll be flashing up a graphic of what the card is. Well, the card it's a communication tool, something that helps those with disabilities that have communication difficulties really convey some pretty important information. For myself, I'm a parent of a child with autism. A lot of you may know that. My son Michael, who will probably be here with me on some of these future podcasts that we do on this issue. My son's 17. He was diagnosed when he was 3 years old, and we've seen a lot of the challenges that he's gone through. He's overcome so much, and we've seen how the challenges change over time, and we share these challenges. We share these issues with so many other families, and that's the whole point of my Autism Action Plan. The point is to identify the challenges, increase awareness, and find solutions. And this card is one of the tools, one of the new communication tools that's offered here in New York State now. It's a developmental disabilities identification card, and what it does is on the front of it, it will just give a general description of what the disability may entail. It talks about having difficulty understanding directions or maybe following directions, the physical aspect of agitation that may occur, sensitivity issues as well. And the back of the card contains some important information. It has my son's name, where he lives. If my son were ever to be lost or wander for any reason, just conveying basic information with the communication difficulties, very limited communication skills, wouldn't be able to say who he was or where he lived, who his parents were, an emergency contact. That information is on this card, but it goes further than that. It has a sort of a customized area where you can add, with My Son, it says, additional information that's very important for law enforcement, for first responders, firefighters, EMS, any one of those situations that requires, where he may require assistance. This allows those individuals to better serve kids like my son. This is not just for kids like my son. It could be for children. It could be for adults. It could be for a number of situations. These cards are completely optional, available upon request. It's a communication tool that may work for some people. They may not work for everyone, but for some individuals, this goes a long way towards helping people convey some pretty important information. The information that my son's card has, limited communication skills, sensitivity to light, sound, and touch. Very important to know that. If there is an emergency and he does need assistance, difficulty responding to questions. We just talked about that. Following directions, the anxiety and stress that my son experiences in social situations, and also he gets repetitive sometimes. He starts repeating words, or he may do self-stimulation, and sometimes he'll take something like this and he'll just wave it back and forth. And it's important that people know what that is, and that information is conveyed if he is in a situation where he's not able to verbalize that. So this card has become available. It's a bill that I introduced in the Assembly a few years ago, and it was signed into law last year. The card is online now. The program has been launched, and it's something that can be used, again, by caregivers, guardians, parents. It can be used by individuals. Available upon request. We've had a great response to this, and the website where you can actually request these cards online, www.opwdd.ny.gov, and you will find the logo for the autism disability identification cards, and you fill out the information. And we're going to flash up some graphics on that as well. You can also call my office for assistance. My contact information will be on this at the end of this podcast. But we also have a website, my own website, where you can visit as well, and that is www.assembly.state.ny.us under Assemblyman Angelo Santa Barbara. So I know it's very long, so we'll flash that up at the end as well. We've had a great reaction to the cards. It's important to note that we worked very hard to make this program at no cost, so all you have to do is request a card. We want everybody that needs one of these to be able to have one of these. So people can visit the website, make the request. They can contact me for assistance. I'm trying to stick to just a single topic because there's a lot to talk about with each podcast. With this one, I will make an exception. I will talk about the first responder training that's actually been also a program that's been launched in New York State. These are firsts, both firsts in New York State. Very few other states have training of this type, so we're leading the way on some of these issues, which is great to see, because we're taking steps towards helping those with autism and related conditions across the state. And again, we hope that other states follow suit here with some of these bills, but the training that's happening, in a bill that I introduced last year, in response to some of the body cam videos that I've seen from across the state, a particular one in Arizona, where a teenager similar to my son, limited communication skills, was doing some self-stimulation. I believe it was with a string, not a rubber band, but that was misunderstood. Just a routine encounter with law enforcement was really misunderstood. And that situation escalated, and virtually for no reason at all, just a misunderstanding. So these two bills is not a response, but it speaks to avoiding that type of escalation in our community. We want those with disabilities, we want everyone to be able to enjoy parks, to be able to hold employment, to be able to engage their community on their own terms. The situation in Arizona would have gone a lot differently had that officer had some training on recognizing the signs of autism. According to the body cam video that I watched, really didn't know much about autism, didn't know what autism was. So it's very important that that training happen, and to have a card like this where it could be found on an individual, very important. And I look at this as there's driver's license, a non-driver ID, passports. They all contain important information, but none of those documents contain the information this document contains, which is very important in a situation like the one we saw in Arizona and with individuals like my son that really cannot verbalize or is unable to follow directions and may do things that are misunderstood. So it's important that we continue to make these communication tools available. The training that is happening now across the state for law enforcement, for first responders, for EMS. I hope to expand that training actually into our schools for guidance counselor, but for now it's just law enforcement and first responders. This will now be incorporated in that training. So you can see how these bills, and we're going to talk about more bills in my Autism Action Plan, they work together. They support the initiatives, and they all kind of combine like a puzzle piece. So that training, you can get updates on that training by contacting my office or visiting my website. That training is happening across the state. It's nice to know that officers and firefighters and EMS will have this training, and whether it's in an amusement park or airport security or in an emergency situation where an interaction with first responders is required, as a parent, it gives me peace of mind to know that these people have had training, and a card like this would be found on my son Michael, and important information would be conveyed if he were ever to be lost. And my son loves to go to amusement parks. Having this card gives me some peace of mind that it's on him. If he were lost, it would be found on him. In some cases, there's other tools out there to be able to find kids that are lost. We'll talk about that in some later episodes. I recently went to the airport with my son, going through airport security. I presented this card to a TSA agent, and the interaction went much better with conveying information and having an official card like this that's standardized across the state that people are going to be trained to recognize now. Very, very important. It's going to go a long way. And I think what we've seen in the past, this is intended to replace what we've seen in the past, which is homemade notes in people's pockets. We've seen some locally issued IDs that are all just a little bit different, nothing really standardized, hard for people to recognize as you're moving across the state or maybe going through to different destinations in New York State. This is the first standardized card that has information that people will be trained on. So a very big win for my Autism Action Plan, a very big win for the autism community and those with developmental disabilities in New York State. Again, we hope that other states will follow suit here and begin providing programs like this that can really make a big difference for so many. The numbers now are very significant change. 1 in 59 now are diagnosed with autism in the United States, 3.5 million Americans. So the chances that law enforcement or other first responders will encounter someone with autism or some related condition is increasing. So these are, this is where I'm going to end my podcast for today. I do want to mention, look for my events across on my website. April 10th, we're going to be having our annual Autism Action Day. This is our 6th annual Autism Action Day on April 10th. You can sign up to reserve space. This is our big event where legislators from across the state, advocates, families all come together to talk about issues like this. And from that, we hope to engage and hear information and hear about more challenges that can turn into good legislation and calls for funding in our state. Again, visit my website to sign up for this podcast is going to be available, but we also have a newsletter that goes out and email alerts. I like to call Autism Action Alerts. You can sign up for those alerts where you can learn more about information like this as it becomes available. You can stay current and up to date on all my autism bills, and as programs like this come online, you will be alerted if you are on that contact list. Again, www.assembly.state.ny.us under Assemblyman Angelo Santa Barbara. You go under the Autism Action logo, and you can complete the information, and you will be added to the list to receive updates on upcoming podcasts, updates on legislation, and a number of other autism-related actions being taken through my Autism Action Plan. So I hope you'll visit the website and sign up for that. But for now, this is the end of my my first podcast. Stay tuned for our next one. In the upcoming, some of the upcoming podcasts, we'll be talking about a number of other things. In the very next podcast coming up, we're going to be talking about a new pilot program to create sensory-friendly, autism-friendly emergency rooms in our hospitals. It's a program that I hope to get done this year, and we're going to be talking about more information about that in our next podcast, so make sure you join us here again. But for now, we're signing off, and we hope to see you back for our next broadcast.